Hello guys, very good morning one and all, and today's topic is object oriented programming with Java, and that this is the 7th part of object oriented programming with Java. And in previous sessions we have been learned about different kinds of arrays, right? So if I'm talking about arrays, let me quickly revise what we have done from the previous session is. So in previous session we are being learned about how an arrays will be an importance in the programming is. Okay. So in that we have been discussing about what is an array and what are the different types of arrays or exist, and we have seen how do you write an arrays in Java and all. Alright. So now today's topic is to write the same thing. Okay. So let me quickly revise what we have done in the previous part. Arrays is one of the important feature of any programming, and in which we are being supposed to have a any application to be working with. So if you want to make anything related to object oriented, so when we for example, I want to store some data into this particular part, right? So when you want to store some data into this particular part, we basically work with this part. All right. So now when it comes to arrays, what will happen is you can store a number of elements. You can store number of elements into it with the help of your arrays concept. Okay. So for example, if you talk about variables, yeah, in this variable you can store only one item at a time. Okay. So if you want to make more than one item at a time, okay. So if you want to make for example, if you want to save any kind of items which is more than single part, right? So then we can comes with an arrays part, right? So in the same what will happen in this arrays concept is we can store multiple elements one after the other one in a sequential manner, so that it is very easy for anyone to access and to store or to delete any elements into this particular arrays, right? That is what the major thing which we have to learn about. And comes to types of arrays, right? So we have two types of arrays in this. One is single dimensional as well as multi-dimensional arrays. When it comes to single dimensional arrays, an array which is either have a single row or a single column, means to say that it has to have either single horizontal line or it has to be a single vertical line. In that process, we basically go for the learning of a single dimensional array, means to say that the elements will be displayed either in one horizontal line or in vertical line. Where it comes to multi-dimensional arrays, if an array which is consist of more than single row as well as single column, then we can go for multi-dimensional arrays. In this multi-dimensional arrays, we have a two-dimensional arrays, we have a three-dimensional arrays, and etc. Alright. So we are been talking about single dimensional. Let me quickly go through with that. So yesterday we have learned about it, how to declare and how to do this, and today we're gonna discuss some of the examples on a single dimensional arrays. Okay. So now let me show the screen once again, so that we'll just continue with this part. Yeah, let me show the screen once again. So what actually we are been learning about. All right. So for example, when it comes to types of arrays, we have two types of arrays. One is single dimensional array and second one is multi-dimensional arrays. For example, if I'm talking about single dimensional array, an array which is consist of either single row or single column, then the array called as single dimensional array, right? So now how to define it? It is pretty simple, right? Yesterday we have learned on this. We have to have one data type, right? So this data type, we basically have anything like we can have int, char, float, or anything, and followed by array braces and followed by identifier. Identifier name can be anything as like what you expected. So here the data types are like int, char, string, or etc. anything whatever you want to write. And identifier is to use a defined name, nothing but as you can already written the variable name, right? So that is also an identifier name. Here it is also an identifier name. Okay, so you can define in two ways, and you can access that particular values in this particular manner, right? So they can just see this, right? Integer array which is of a, which is size, you can just define it. And here phi differentiate the size. All right. So here any size, if it is size is 5, right? So any value will be identified by its index, as hope you have learned yesterday's part, right? Here always your index starts from 0, right? it goes to n minus 1. For example, if I have a size is 5, the indexes are 4. See that 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. There are the 5 different indexes, and every indexes stores with some value. Alright. So now let me show you with simple example so that we gonna go with this part. Alright. So the first thing is we are gonna show you one example on simple array. Alright. So import the particular namespaces, right. So our namespace is called java.lang, and namespace like package like util.scanner, right. So define these two packages into your class. Once you define this particular packages, we have a class, directly write the class name, right. So I'm writing the class name as demo41. Alright. So now here I need to write one public method, public, alright, main method, it have a string args. Alright. So now let me write this particular simple example to define an array. How to define it? We just need to have integer, and we have a, any identifier name you can write it. Alright. So I'm writing an identifier name as x or a or b, or let's say I'm writing an x new followed by x of it accepting a size. Size is how much? I'm writing a size as 5. So nothing but it has to have a 5 different indexes to it. Index always starts from 0. Please remember this. Anytime when I am talking about any arrays, or if I am talking about the next future I am talking about collections, in these two cases you have to remember compulsory a index. Always your index starts from 0 and your index goes to last n minus 1, and nothing but if the size is 5, your indexes are 4, but it has to have a 5 different values in it. Okay. Now let me show you 5 things. Okay. So hope you understand this. This is how you declare an array or declare a single dimension array, and this is how you initialize the values. Alright. So hope you understand this part, yesterday's example also. Alright. In yesterday also we have done the same thing, right. So I'm just quickly revising what we have completed in yesterday's part. Alright. So now let me write a simple for loop, right. So for loop is required a local variable, so that I can also directly write here itself int I is equals to 0, right. Basically it is a 0th part initial expression, and followed by the size. How much size, how many times you want to repeat this loop? I want to repeat for 5 times, and I just want to say I plus plus to it. So now what I want to print here is I want to print something like a system dot out dot println. I want to print the value of x of I, nothing but every time it is going to fetch the particular index from the given array, and it is going to print the value which is in the current indexes. Alright. Hope you understand this example. Right. Let me save this example, and the name of this particular file I am giving as a demo41 dot extension is a .java. Alright. So now let me say demo41 dot extension is .java. Alright, save this particular program. As soon as if you save this program, go to the command prompt, and in the command prompt right now your control is in so and so place. Make that cursor to the place where you are in this particular position. Alright. So now let me say cd followed by Java programming. Okay. So in this particular folder we are saving all the files from the initial day. Alright. So I'm just saving that particular folder, and I'm going to show you the file what you are trying to search for right now. So I'm trying to search for the file name called demo41.java. So first you need to compile this particular program. How do you compile it? So demo41.java. Right, it takes a couple of seconds time to compile your program, and asking for declaring the variable symbol x. Okay, so maybe we have defined here. Yes, we have just wrong something here. Now let me say, actually as per the syntax we need to write here some kind of again a integer variable, but we have just kept something wrong here. Just check it out here. Previously I was not written here integer. Here in the place of integer I was write x. So that's the reason my compiler is showing me an error. Again I do compile this particular program. Right now your error got removed, nothing but this is a small part I have done mistake, so that it is showing me an error that this is not actually x, it has to be something else. So something else is your data type name. See that this is the data type name I have to be placed over there, but I have placed x here. Alright, so that's the reason it shows me an error. So I have modified my program now, modified the program is of integer now, so that as soon as if I modify it, it is giving me a proper connection. Now let me execute this particular program. So now let me show you the output for this. Demo 4.1, right? So exception thread Java is out of bound exception, right? So I don't think so, we don't have that. Alright, so we have done something wrong here also, alright. So we need to make only 4, right? So again we have compile our program, because we have make that, see that we got the proper expected output here previously. So I mean we have done mistake, because just now I told you that index is always starts from 0 and the size of index is n minus 1, nothing but it has to be 5, nothing but how many indexes supposed to be there, 4, but unfortunately instead of 4 I have written 5. So when I writing a 5 here, you can get an exception here. What is that exception you are getting here? In the index out of bound exception, nothing but you have an array indexes just only 4 up to 4, but you are trying to access the index of 5. So that's the reason it is just showing the error as array out of bound exception. Alright, so hope you understand. Please do remember this when I am talking about arrays concept is single dimension, any arrays concept is okay. So when I am talking about arrays, the first thing what you need to remember is the size of arrays. Whether it is single dimensional or whether it is multi-dimensional doesn't matter. So you have to remember the first part is a size of array, and then once you define the size of array, when you want to access a specific value of any array, nothing but whenever you want to make identify any value from that particular array, you do remember something called it as index. Whenever I am talking about array or whenever I am talking about collection, in these two cases you have to remember compulsory that it has to be index. Alright, so always your index starts from 0 and your index always a last index is n minus 1. For example, if you consider n as a size of array, nothing but size is 5, your last index is only 4 because it's starting from 0. In some interviewers, you will also get what you can call as a 0th index. 0th index always call it as lower bound index. Please do remember this one. A 0th index always we usually call it as lower bound index n minus 1, nothing but last index we basically call it as upper or higher bound index, right. So this is the two places we basically concentrate here. Am I very clear on this example? Yes, okay. So now let me show you one more example of the same thing. Now let me open the one more example. So here in this example, what I do is, okay, so first thing is I do accept some input from the user, say java.lang.star, so and import java.util.scanner. Alright, so in these two things I just need to have a class. Right now class name I am writing here as demo42, right. In this what is I just want to show you here is I will accept the input from the user, right. After accepting the input, I will display that inputs, right. Display the inputs to the whatever you have entered, I will show them. After that, I will do one more implementation in the same thing. I just want to find out, the sum of a given array elements. Right, mean to say that, for example, I do have an array in this I am entering for example size of 5, I will enter 5 different elements, and out of that I want to find out the last output as displaying the output as what? Output what I want to display is display the sum of all array elements. Am I very clear on this example what I am trying to tell you? First thing is I do take a input from the user, nothing but I will use a scanner class, I will accept the inputs to the program. After that I will display them, nothing but whatever you expected I will display them into array. After that what I will do is I will take an input, or I will take this particular array, and this particular array what I want to do is in this particular array I will make sure that I will accept few inputs to it. After accepting the inputs, I will take all the inputs, and after that I want to find out the sum of those elements, I want to print out them. Alright. So, for every program what you want to find out, I just need to have a public static void main is mandatory. So, I need to write the string args to it, right. Once I am writing, because please do remember that whenever I am talking about this kind of application, whenever I am talking about any kind of programs, okay. So, in that compulsory UG required all these things, alright. So, now let me write the main function first of all, because main is one of the major function to access all your inputs, right. So, that is because of what, because of this main method your program is running, nothing but your entry point of your program will be defined with this main function is. First I will do define one single dimensional array, alright. First thing I will do one thing simple as that, I will just write in simple words, I will define one single dimensional array. How do I define it? Integer array variable name at say x, something like new x of trying to size the size as 5, nothing but this is what you can call it as declare the single dimensional array. Once you declare them, right, I do require one scanner class object I will create it, because I do want to accept this scanner class, and input is something say system.in, alright. So, within the system.in I do take input from this particular user is, okay. So, once if I am taking this inputs to this particular program, so I will do store them into this particular variable is, okay. After defining this particular array, after defining the size, I will do define the particular thing. Now, let me write a for loop integer I is equals to 0, I less than, how many times you want to repeat this loop? 5 times I want to repeat this loop. Let me say I plus plus to it. Alright. So, after repeating this particular loop and asking you to enter some values to this, okay. So, every time every loop, okay. So, I will do one thing, I will write some message here so that you will be able to understand very easily. Say print ln enter the elements to array, okay. So, once you asking to enter the elements, user will enter that elements up to the size of 5 different elements, okay. So, here I want to store them in x of I, okay. So, you can also define your array in other way also, right. So, instead of defining here, you can also define here also, there are the 2 ways you can define them, right. So, I was showing you that index can be declared in 2 ways. See, that first thing is I am trying to follow the second one, but you can also do in first one also, data type followed by directly you have a array braces here. See that I can have the same thing here also, okay. So, let me write this particular thing, right. X of I is equals to, what is the method we have in a object? We have an object called it as next int method, we have to read that particular inputs, right. After reading this inputs, whatever you have read this inputs, now let me show them output right now. Say print ln your entered elements are your entered elements are, I just want to write a for loop, integer I is equals to 0, I less than, the size is how much, size is something say 5, then you can have something like I plus plus, right. So I do have this particular thing, and let me write some message here that system.out.println here, right, system.out.println, try to print this particular value here. So what is the value I need to print here? X of I value I want to print here, right. So this x of I value will be printed as what we expected also, alright. So now let me save this particular program, the program name is demo42, save this particular program, give a name, extension is Java, right. Now let me go to a command prompt here, right. So within this command prompt, try to search for the file what you are looking for. I am looking for the file name called demo42.java, right. So now let me compile that particular program, Java C followed by demo42.java, okay. So it takes a couple of seconds time, again we do the same mistake there, instead of writing integer we are writing x here, alright. So now again I am writing integer, now let me modify it and run compile the program again, say Java followed by demo42, right. So now this is a program you need to execute, and it is asking for inputs to it 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, because we have given a condition for 5 times. So it is taking inputs of 5 elements and it is printing the 5 elements, right. After printing this 5 elements, what I want to do is, I want to find out the sum of all the elements what you have entered. Right. So I want to find out sum of all the elements who went to enter. Okay. So for to find out the sum, what I want to do is, within this particular program, I do define one integer variable called sum. I do define a variable called sum, right. In this particular sum I will print at the end, okay. So before I am printing the sum, okay, at the end if I print this particular value out.println, right, I need to find the sum. Sum is equals to, I will just concatenate with a sum, okay. Now let me write this particular variable name sum, right. So now let me copy this particular name and you can just paste here, right. So now this is what your expected output, you can display the sum here. Before this you need to perform some kind of implementation. What is the implementation I want to do is, integer I is equals to 0. How do I find out the sum, right. So I need to add each and every index of your array, yes or no. For example, you have 5 different indexes, right. For example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right. In this 5 indexes, if I am add all these 5 indexes, so that I will get the at the last index as sum of all your indexes. So how to do it, that is what I am trying to show you here. So now I less than the size is 5, I plus plus, right. So now what I want to do is, okay, right. So now let me show you here how to find the sum here. Sum plus equals to x of I, alright. So every time, so hope you remembered this, right. What is it means here, sum is equals to sum plus x of I, alright. So we have done this one earlier when we are learning about operator concept, we have learned about this operator, right. So that is an operator I am using here, that is something called sum plus equals to x plus of I. It means to say that sum is equals to sum plus x plus of I. So if I print here, what will happen is, every time when this particular loop is repeating, or every time when the loop is trying to repeat for the first time, or second time, or third time, every time a loop indexes, every particular element is presented in particular location and the location will be added. Like I mean to say that it would be something like this, alright. Alright, so now let us just look at here how this particular loop will be works, alright. So for example, I am have this particular loop. All right. So let me consider this is your array. In this, how many indexes we have right now? We have a 5 indexes here. This is 0th index. This is the first index. This is the second index, and this would be the third index, and this will be the last index. There are 5 different indexes are here right now, and every indexes have some value, right? Now let me imagine that the values of each and every index is say 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 different indexes are presented in each and every element here. So now what I want to do is I want to find out the sum here. How do I find the sum here? I need to add this particular element first of all, right? I need to add this particular element first, and followed by I need to add to this particular 2, nothing but it becomes as 1 plus 2, right? Again I need to add the sum to it, it becomes plus 3, it becomes plus 4, it becomes plus 5, right? So what happened with this particular program also? See that this program, when I am writing this particular logic here, I is equals to 0, nothing but it is starting from 0th index, right? And I is less than 5, nothing but it has to be 5 different indexes, alright. So when it is sum is equals to x plus of 5, sum value how much by default? By default it is something say 0, alright. Now let me assume that it is 0. If it is not 0 also it is okay. Okay, so I will let you know what how it is in the next coming days time. By default what is the sum value? It is 0. 0 plus 1 it becomes as right now 1, alright. So already it is stored in sum, right? And when it is repeating for the second time, it becomes plus 2, nothing but I plus 2, nothing but it becomes as 3 now, right? Second time repetition, and the sum value right now becomes 3, and again you need to add a plus 3 to it because the next index value is how much? 3. So then the output becomes right now 6, right? So next time when the loop is repeating, next index value is 4, it becomes as 10, right? And the last index value is 5, right? Add plus 5 to it, it becomes as 15, nothing but your output at the end, if your inputs are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your output has to be print something like 15 now. Now let me check it out whether your program is printing 15 or not. Okay. System.out.println, right? I want to print, just give me some 2 spaces here, because after displaying the output I just want to say few values here. Now save this particular program. Okay, so already we have saved the same name called demo42, right? So just go to a command prompt, right? Now before this, just compile this particular program, right? Compilation is got succeeded, and execute this program asking for inputs 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So if you are giving a 5 inputs, you are display the values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is sum we are expected? Expected sum is 15. So that is what it this program is also giving, right? Your output of this program is how much? It is 15. Understood? Right. This is one of a very important interview question for you guys, because how do I sum the elements from an array? It is pretty simple logic. You need to write this particular logic within your program. If you are able to write this particular logic within your program, so that we can able to find the output as 15. Am I very clear, guys? Now let me extend this particular program, right? So right now I am trying to define the sum, right? So for example, I want to define the product, right? Say product. By default I am defining as 1 now. Okay. Now what I just want to do is, I want to find out the multiplications of given numbers, right? For example, if you are giving a numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and you have to expect some multiplication output, right? So how do I find it here? Let is nothing but just need to write product of all right, whatever the inputs you have entered, it's supposed to be displayed the same thing, right? Say for integer value I is equals to 0, I is less than 5 times. Okay, I do modify this particular program. Instead of writing 5 there, we can also do some more modification. I'll let you know that. All right. So now what is the variable name we have defined here? We have defined the variable name called product. Okay. So now let me show you the product value here. Product. Now it is cross is equals to x of I. Nothing but indirectly what it means to say that product is equals to product cross x of I. All right. So this is how we basically write this particular line. Now after this, what I want to do is I just want to write system.out.println, right. Now let me save this particular thing. Let me say 3 times, because it just gives us some spaces on the screen so that you will be able to understand easily. Let us say println. All right. So what I want to print now? I want to print a product. Say product is equals to. Okay. So now let me save this particular program again and go to this particular program and again compile this particular program now. Once your compilation is succeeded, execute this particular program asking for an inputs here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right. See that your inputs are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sum of all your inputs is 15 and the product of all your inputs is 120. Just multiply all 5 numbers here, you will get the product as 120. Am I very clear with this example, guys? Do remember this example, and it is very important example when you are attending an interviews on a single dimension array. Means to say, whenever you are attending an arrays concept, whenever you have arrays concept, they ask you to write some kind of programs. This is one kind of program they may ask you. Please look at this program once again, and the first we are defining an array which is a size of 5 here. So after defining the size of 5, I am writing a program, or I am writing some loop here to access the input of this particular program is, right. So nothing but I want to access the 5 different elements, right. So for example, after accessing the 5 different inputs to it, I am trying to print the all 5 numbers to the user again now. So this is how this for loop again prints you the values for the user. And after that, here this is the sum, right. So here this sum particular program or this one will make sure that adding all the elements to the given input and it will be prints here. And the next thing is this particular program will multiply all the numbers and this one prints you the output for the users here, right. Am I very clear, guys? All right. So what is the important fact or important points you need to remember from this particular example is? Now let me tell you once again, all right. So in this particular program, you need to remember first thing is how do you define a single dimension array, the first major thing. And the second major thing what you need to remember is how do you define and how do you access the values to your program. Once you are able to access the inputs to the program, and the third important factor is you need to remember very important thing, your index is always starts from index from 0, nothing but your, if it is number of inputs, for example, if you consider n is the size of your array, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 1000 or maybe 10,000, in which you have to define an array which starts index from 0 and it goes to n minus 1. Alright. So based on that you need to write the program. Whenever if it is not, then it will show you an error called or exception, not error, it's called as exception. The exception name called array out of bound exception, right. So we do discuss about the exception concept at the time. Again I will show you the exception what we have got earlier, right. And earlier when I am trying to execute the program, unfortunately I have not completed program properly, so that I got my error exception called array out of bound exception. So same thing you will get it in your programs also. And in this example I am going to trying to show you how to combine or how to sum all the inputs which is entered by the user, right. And here I was also showing you one more part here, how to make a product of inputs who has given as an input to this. Alright. Am I very clear on this example? Right. So now let me show you one more example on the same. Alright, before this I am gonna let me show you the screen again once again. Let me show the screen once again please. Right. So here which we have here, alright. So for example, every time you are defining that value of size here, right. So instead of this particular size, we can also define there is a property in arrays, the property name called a length, okay, length, okay. What is the value of this particular property is, it is going to return the size of that particular array, nothing but every time we are writing 5, sometimes you never know what is the size of that particular array, in that time you can write this particular, alright. So instead of finding what I am trying to replace here, I am trying to replace everything with a property, call it as a length property, alright. So now let me save this particular program and go to combine prompt. Do we changes any compilation or do we have any compilation errors here? Alright, no compilation errors, and execute this program, as your program will work as it is when you have given the same inputs earlier, right. So I am getting the same output, sum is 15 and product is 120, yes or no. So no changes with this particular output, but what we have changed here, instead of making a static value 5, we are making a property called a dynamic property, the property length property. And here x is an array name, length is a property name, this will be returns you the size of array. Please do remember this, length is one of the property which returns you the size of current array, nothing but here x is an array name in which length is a property name. If I am giving the length, so what is the length of this? Length is 5, nothing but size is 5. Indirectly the compiler will replace this particular line as this one, right, but we are writing as x dot length property, right. Understand, this one is very important thing. And now let me go to one more example, what I want to show you with another example here. In another example, what I want to show you here, for example, I will take one simple example again on single dimensional. Here I will ask them to user to enter some inputs, right, that is random inputs, right. So say random inputs. After entering the random inputs, my program, I want to implement the logic to find the large number and small number from the list of, right. For example, right now it is a list, right, list in the sense a group of elements. Here what I want to see the same thing here also, alright. So here also I want to, I will enter the username, I will enter some inputs, random inputs to the particular program. After entering the random input, I want to find out the logic to implement whether what is the large number. For example, I am entering the list as some 10 elements or 20 elements, in which I want to find out large as well as I want to find out least element, okay. So how do I write it? Say import java.lang.star, it's a first package I need to import it. So import.java.util. Right, scanner class, okay. This particular scanner class which accepting to take inputs here also, right. Class name is a demo43, right. So now what I want to do is public static void main, I just write a string and writing the input as string args now, okay. So now first thing is I do define an array, something like any name, you can write a is equals to new integer of, right. So I am just giving a array either after a or before a also, anything is okay, and give the some size here. Let me ask a size as 10, nothing but I want to accept 10 different, because my size is 10, nothing but I have to fix different 10 elements into this particular array now, alright. So how to define it? First I need to have a scanner class object, the object name is C1, alright. So I need to write the input as system dot in is my input of this, right. So once if I am giving an input here, so what I want to do is for integer I is equals to 0, I less than, I do not write 10, instead of that I will write L length, right. Length, length is a property which returns you the size of arrays. Okay. So then I plus plus, I do accept the inputs to this. Okay. So how do I do it? Let us say for your identification I am writing a simple thing, system.out.println, say enter inputs to the program. Right, I am asking a user to enter the inputs to this particular program. Once if I enter the inputs, how do I access it? It is pretty simple. A of I is equals to, what is the system class object? C1 dot next int, because as we are writing an integer variable, we do require a next int method of scanner class object. And after that I will do print is whatever you have entered. Let me say println entered inputs, or so I am asking whatever you have entered, I just want to print here. How do I print it? For integer I is equals to 0, I is less than the length of the particular array, alright. So then say I plus plus to it, right. Then what I want to print here is, I just want to print system dot out dot print or println, alright. So you do write a print, no issues here. Okay. So now what I want to do is, I want to print a of I, followed by I am giving some space here, nothing but I just want to give some space between each and every element. Now all elements will be displayed in one horizontal line, alright. So now let me show you output up to this. After that we are going to find the logic to implement it, right. So demo43 dot extension is dot java, right. Save this particular file, right. Once you save this particular file, go to commands prompt, java c, right, followed by demo43.java. Okay, right. So I is equals to 0, I less than the length, and I plus plus. Where is the error in this? Okay. So now let me say dot class is expected. So we are written for wrong, sorry. Yes, it's got compiled, just I have missed a simple character here. So Java followed by demo43. So asking inputs to this particular program, I will give a random input 40, 12, 1, 52, 95, right. Say 11, 5, 6, 9, 75, alright. So this is your inputs, right. So whatever you are entered, this is all your inputs format. Okay. In this I want to find out the large number as well as least number. What is the large number in this? 95 is the large number, least number is 1. Nothing but as a programmer or as a logic builder, what you need to do is, you need to write a certain logic within your program to print this number as well as this number. So if you do write that particular logic, then you can able to find that particular program is perfectly finished here. Okay. So hope you I mean it's a time out for the day. Okay. So we're gonna we're gonna go to this particular example in the next day. Alright. So I just want to conclude the session here itself today. So what I want to tell you right now is, please do remember the examples what we have done, and please practice the examples what we are discussing every day in the class. Alright. So thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Alright. So if someone needs to someone needs anything related to arrays concept, please do share this video with your friends or anyone. Okay. Thank you so much for the listening to me. Right. Have a great day. By that way, I am Anil Kumar, the trainer of APSSDC.